Three,
Yeah, we
two,
can start.
one.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Ask Me Anything session. We're almost towards the end of the bootcamp, and I know you all have a lot of questions about your assignment and how we'll be evaluating some of the top digital ventures towards the end. And in today's Ask Me Anything session, I'll be covering all of this and a few more things. So to start with, I'd actually like to quickly share my screen and share 2 slides in specific. And then after that, we can dive right into the questions that I have received. If you have more questions, you can always put it in the chat and I'll be happy to take them on. But to begin with, let's start with the presentation I have. So as you can see on the screen now, this is like a quick overview of the weeks we've had so far, the learning we've had so far, and I'd like to quickly, go through it again and sort of bring you up to speed in case you are confused about any of it. Week 1, we learned a bunch of digital skills. There were over 22 skills that were introduced to you so that you could pick up new digital skills, refine your knowledge and understanding, and get really good at understanding how digital ventures can be built. Right after that, we dived into building a digital product, which is that now you have the skills that you need. How can you put them together to solve a problem for a specific user base that you might have? It could be your friends, it could be the people who say stay in the residential complex as you, it could be your parents, it could be your family members, anyone really, or it could be a problem you see others face or you face yourself, and you use these digital skills to build a product that solves that. Building a product by no means is an easy task, and therefore refining it is super important. And in week 3, we sort of went there. We worked on making the product better. I remember Mr. Bhanu had a very excellent session where he talked about what are some of the specific activities you can do to refine your product. And I'm sure that would have been helpful to a lot of you. Week 4, we learned now that we have the product ready, how do you really monetize it? How do you make money out of it? And for this, we looked at multiple models that exist: subscription, one time payment, freemium models, advertisement supported models, and so much more. And something that I would request all of you to take away from the business model week is that products that keep evolving and iterating are the ones that really succeed at the end, because you truly need to keep evolving to stay relevant. And I think that's something that the business model week covered quite beautifully. Next week was all about taking your product to the users, building a great marketing campaign and what it sort of takes to do that, from some of the iconic brands that exists in India and globally to some of the up and coming startups and how they are approaching the realm of digital marketing and finding your consumers online. Week 6, we're figuring out how to really set up an online store now that you have a marketing now that you have your marketing collaterals ready and you're sort of thinking about, okay, great, how do I really get the customer to pay and buy my product online? How does that work? How do you have like a digital storefront to sell your products? And Mr. Kiran did a brilliant session where he walked you through how you can approach setting up a digital store and what are the different ways. In the coming weeks, we'll be looking at business finance, which is, how do you sort of manage your money, your receipts, invoice, so on. How do you then actually launch your business? I think it's an extension of digital marketing where you sort of think about, okay, great, how can I maybe build a marketing campaign? How can I have very targeted outreach and so on? And then the final week is sort of pitching your idea. We'll have a lot of startups, investors, and people by and large in the entrepreneurial ecosystem in India coming and talking to you about their pitching and fundraising experience and sort of give you insights on how you can continue working on your digital venture even after the Tinkerpreneur Bootcamp ends. And this sort of brings me to the next important thing that I'd like to discuss in today's Ask Me Anything session, which is really on recognition, right? We have mentioned it time and again that top digital ventures from each state as well as nationally will get special recognition. There will be certificates that will be provided, new opportunities that will be given to these students, and so on. And today I just want to talk about how we'll really be evaluating this, or more importantly, how your mentors will be really evaluating all of this, so you can prepare accordingly. I think the first and the most critical component of this is assignments. Students who have consistently submitted their assignments, students who have consistently worked on their ideas are the ones who will really get um, to who will be really recognized for their work. And by this, I simply mean your ability to have submitted one assignment every week. That's it. Each week, other than the week one, each week only has one assignment, and as a student, you're expected to submit that. The second criteria, based on which we'll be evaluating, is basically the idea that you have for your digital venture. What is the problem that you're really trying to solve, and for whom? So I think that would become part two. And part three is actually something we'll get from your week 9 assignment, which is pitching. So as we go into week 9, you'll see we have a specific way in which we'll expect all of you to pitch your venture, talk about all the weeks that you worked on, and then give a cohesive story of your digital venture. And based on these three parameters, we'll be selecting the top teams or students from each state and nationally. Additionally, mentors who've been working with these students as well as ATL in charges will be recognized for their work. So it's not just the students, but it's the entire team effort in itself that includes the brilliant work a lot of our mentors and ATL in charges have put in into making Tinkerpreneur a success. So with this, an overview of the bootcamp and a structure of recognition shared, I'd like to start by answering some of the questions that we've already received. I will also be taking questions that we receive in the chat, so please keep putting them there, and I'll come to that. With that, I will start with the questions. The first I've received is actually from a mentor. Is Can students submit extra logos and taglines for their assignment? Yes, absolutely. Students may submit more than once. However, the portal might not allow for it. So in such a case, the students can share the assignment with you over mail or WhatsApp, whatever is your preferred medium of communication, so that you can review it and analyze it. Anyways, a lot of companies, especially in their early days, experiment with their tagline, their logos to see what really sticks with the users. And I think the students are also absolutely free to do that. So yeah, please go ahead, experiment, tinker around, try, and get to the one that really speaks to your audience. The next question I have is from a student who's talking about adding a subscription-based revenue system to his app. In that case, it sort of depends on the app you're using. There are a lot of platforms, fintech platforms, that now allow for financial transactions which are subscription based. In India, probably the most prominent one is a company called Razor Pay. You can have a look at that. But I think the more important thing you'll have to look at is just in terms of what is the software and technology you're using and what subscription layer would be compatible with that. There are multiple ways to run subscription businesses. You should just see and pick what works for you. If you Google subscription providers or softwares or services, I'm sure you'll find a lot of options for that as well. The next question I have is again from a student, which is I want to ask, I want to. So Sanvi, so I think the next question has created a digital learning hub, and she's asking if she has created a lot of ebooks, decks, quizzes, and she's asking if she can put it in her online store. Absolutely, a lot of edtech companies, if you look at them in India, that's what exactly they do. They create learning content, and then kids can go buy it and learn and prepare for their exams or other class tests using that. So please go ahead and do that. I have another question from the same student, which is in my flyer, I want to add my store name or my digital product name with my QR code. I think that's a great idea. You should absolutely do it. QR code makes it easy for people to scan and find your website easily. Adding your name or something that people can remember you by adds to the brand value. This is something we discussed extensively in the marketing week. So I would strongly encourage you to go ahead and create your marketing collaterals, as well as put all the content you've created, the ebooks, the animation, quizzes, decks on a website. You can look at platforms that you can do this. There are multiple options. Pick the one that you think works the best for you and go for it. There's another question by a student, which is there any advertisement software which I can use to get ad revenue? AdSense does not work with Google Sites, please tell me. So actually there are a lot of advertisement softwares that exist. AdSense, like you mentioned, is one. There are similarly a lot on YouTube, Instagram, and so on. So I think you should just think about first what is the product that you're selling and where is the audience for it most likely to reside. Hypothetically, if the product or the service that I was providing was something that is visual in nature, it could be maybe photos that I take or collages that I create, or maybe caricature designs that I make. A platform like Instagram might be a better fit because it focuses on visual content, and therefore getting advertisement and watch revenue from it would make more sense. So you should first look at your product and find what is the best place to host it. Alternatively, if I was someone who was creating video content, then YouTube is the best place for me to exist. So first look at that, then look at the platform, and then once you have the platform and the product finalized, then think of what are the ways of sort of monetizing it. It necessarily doesn't even need to be a software. If you're hypothetically you're running a newsletter or a blogging platform, and if you're able to get say 10,000 people to regularly read your blog or your newsletter, there will be companies who could reach out to you and ask you to put advertisements in your blog and newsletter. And this therefore is not a software format of advertisement, but actually people reaching out to you and asking you to plug in their advertisement in your writing. So I think first get the audience and the product and the platform right. I think you'll find multiple ways of generating ad revenue eventually. And the final question I see is just on the timelines and deadlines for assignment submission. Like we've mentioned before, the definitive deadline is that you should have submitted all your assignments by the end of the bootcamp. That is on the 2nd of August, if I remember correctly. So just make sure that you're able to do that properly. And rest, I think. You can take your time, do it. I've seen a lot of students take time off on weekends and just focus on assignments. If you need more help with approaching your assignments, last week we had a Ask Me Anything session with students who've been participating in the ATL Tinkerpreneur Bootcamp. You can go ahead, watch that. That might give you some insights and perspective from other students who've been participating in the bootcamp. With this, I'll come to some of the questions that we have in the YouTube chat. And let me just start with those. So yes, so there's a question about mentors of change sort of accepting and rejecting assignments. So even if your assignment has been rejected by a mentor, you can obviously update it and send it to them again via mail or WhatsApp, but that won't affect your performance in the bootcamp. We will just be looking at if you have submitted your assignment or not. We will not be looking at whether it has been accepted or rejected by your mentor. So your priority is just to get the assignment ready and out. I see another question by which is basically I'm still on week 3, and since I had my exams, now I'm starting from week 7. How can I do? So I would say that just start by going through the videos that we have so far and working on your assignments parallelly. If you have your assignment submitted, we'll consider that you've completed the bootcamp. So that's the most important part for you to complete. Yes, you will see your product rankings. We will identify the top 10, 20, 50, and so on for each state as well as nationally. So details will be shared once we have the final submissions in. Um, So I have another question that my product is a QR code. What should I put in the online store? In the online store, you can try multiple things. I've seen some students create brilliant ebooks. If you're a writer, you could put your writing in there. If you're an artist, you could put your artwork. You can put any creative digital work that you have or any other thing that you're really good at that can go in on your online store. You can actually use the QR code for payment links as well. So there are a lot of companies and websites that do that. So please go ahead, do it. I think that's a very creative use of the QR code, and you should go for it. Yes, you can continue making your product after week 9. Rather, some of the students who perform really well, we will be supporting them to continue building their digital venture even after the bootcamp gets over. So yes, that's obviously always an option, and we look forward to actually seeing you build out your businesses and become entrepreneurs. Yeah, I really like the comment that's here that, to build a beta version or MVP during the bootcamp and sort of continue using it even after the bootcamp end. That's something a lot of successful entrepreneurs actually do. They'd actually just spend the early days building a minimal viable product, see how it does, and then really scale it once their idea has been met or once they've received once they've achieved something called a product market fit, which in very simple terms mean that there are actually users who are interested in buying your product. So absolutely use this bootcamp to try out, test out your idea, and then think about how you'd like to grow and scale it. If your assignments have not been approved yet, that's all right. We'll make sure that they are approved. From your end, please go ahead and keep submitting your assignments. I think that's of utmost importance. You can, if you want feedback, I think you should just approach your mentor, request them for time. I see a lot of mentors also host sessions, so join in if they haven't hosted them in a while. Ask them to host it. I'm sure they will do it and get feedback for your product. I think feedback is extremely important as an entrepreneur. That's what makes you, your product, your company, your venture better each and every day. Mm, So I see a question about making flyers and web applications. There are specific sessions we've had which walk you through how you can do it. I think you should go through that. The beauty of this boot camp is all the sessions that we've had, they're recorded and you can go through them and watch them again as many times as you like. So I will not give you half-baked advice and guidance. I would instead request you to go ahead, watch those sessions, and really build out your product, your flyers, all of it in a proper manner. So for those who are asking, right, that they were busy with exams and they'd like to continue now, I think the same thing I said. Go ahead, watch the videos we've had in the previous week, look at what the assignment is, and make sure you submit it. Even if your product is not fully developed, but you have a really good idea, I think that's worth it. A lot of companies today are able to raise money just on the idea itself without a product. And I think if you can take this bootcamp to refine your idea and really build on it, I think you'll be in a good place. So I think that's all the questions I see for today. Thank you for joining in. My concluding thought for today would just be to take time, really learn from everything we're providing in the Tinkerpreneur Bootcamp, and work on your assignments, your digital ventures and idea, and really refine them to the best of your abilities, considering the time restraint, the resource restraint you have. I think as entrepreneurs, the ability to manage time and resources is of utmost importance. And I think the bootcamp gives you a good taste of that. With that, we'll be back with another Ask Me Anything session next week as well. And feel free to send in your questions in case you think something has been missed. And yeah, I think that's all I have for today. Thank you for joining in. And